This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast. The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but we're the ones that invite you to go ahead and like and share them on your favorite social media with all of your friends and neighbors, because Martin County Roofing and independent insurance agent Rudy Howard bring you at this time the African American Scene, hosted by Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here at WPSL for the African American Scene. I have a guest tonight. You know, I've talked to you guys for the last couple weeks about me being on the board of directors for the YMCA. Well, I have the president of the YMCA, who's my guest this evening, Charlene Lyons. Say hello, Charlene.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Charlene, but I'm going to give you the trivia question. And guess what you're going to win if you get the question right. The YMCA has an annual Easter house raffle. So you're going to win a free ticket to enter the raffle if you get this question, if you answer this question correctly. And here is the question. What was the Axe Handle Saturday? What was the Axe Handle Saturday? What year and what location was it? What was Axe Handle Saturday? For this, you're going to have to think. You know, I'm making it a little tough for you on this one, because you're going to get this raffle. You could end up winning a house. So what was Axe Handle Saturday? Give me the year and the location and what it was all about. Axe Handle Saturday. Okay. So this is kind of like the full circle for me, being in the Y. When I was a little kid, Charlene, my first major exercise experience was the Y. I learned how to swim. And I don't know if they still do it. I think we talked about this before, but you started out as a tadpole, flying fish. Do they still do that?
Pike, eel, ray, starfish.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
guppy, minnow. Yes. Oh, yeah. Porpoise, all the way up to porpoise.
All the way up to porpoise?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that was my first introduction to the Y, and I learned how to play basketball. And the Y I belonged to in Philadelphia had an indoor track, so they taught us how to speed walk around the track. So here I am, an old man now, and I'm back with the Y again. So it's kind of nice. So anyway, Charlotte, where's your home?
My home? Where I live?
Where you from?
Well, that's actually a longer story than just because my dad was in the Marine Corps. So I was born in Hawaii.
Okay.
And then I was raised in 29 Palms out in California.
Okay.
And then I moved to Florida in '97 because I married a Marine who was from Stewart.
Oh.
And he brought me back here with him.
Oh, okay. Well, we're glad he brought you back here.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, you like it here?
I do.
Yeah. It's a little cheaper to live than where you're from, huh?
It is.
Yeah. So, how did you get involved with the Y?
Well, like I said, I was living out in California, and I had been a lifeguard and a swim instructor at the pool there. And I moved to Stewart, and I was kind of asking around. The skills that I had were lifeguard, WSI swim instructor. So I was asking around, and they said, yeah, just go on down to the Y. They'll hire you. So I walked into the aquatics director's office. Her name was Sandy Pustover. I still remember her. And they said, you're hired. Okay, when can you start? When can you start?
Well, that was a nice surprise.
That
huh?
was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, and so then you began your march upward.
Correct. I pretty much have worked in every department at the YMCA. Being that I've only worked at our YMCA, I've talked to other people that work at other YMCAs, so that's kind of a trademark, something that happens to people when they work at the YMCAs. You kind of, if you're available, we can use you here, we can use you there, you know. So I've worked in every department, but I eventually moved up and I was hired as CEO January of last year.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, I was talking to Kara earlier about the location on Bayshore, and I've been by it about 8 million times, and I've never gone in there. And I said to Carol today, I said, you know what, I'm gonna make it my business the next couple of days to just go over there and visit. So, what other locations do you have around here?
So, in Port St. Lucie?
Yes.
Okay, well, St. Lucie County, actually. So we are at Bayshore Boulevard. We have a small building there where we do before school, after school summer camp at JC Park there on Bayshore Boulevard. We are at Weatherby Elementary. We're at Francis K. Sweet Elementary. We're at Cast Elementary, Village Green Elementary. And that's it right now.
Okay, so what kind of programs do you run at those schools?
At those schools, we do before school, after school, and summer camp, and we have just recently started basketball. So we're going from over to each school after school, and our sports director Fred is coming out and talking to the kids. And we just this last Saturday had 5 kids from Village Green Elementary join into our youth sports program for the games on Saturday.
Oh, how fantastic! That's fantastic. And I know one of the reasons why I ended up on the board, guys, is they were looking for more representation from Port St. Lucie. So I was recommended by Marisol, who has been a guest here on my show. So that's good. About how many members do you have in the Y?
We have about 5,000 members that are active at our location in Stewart.
Okay, okay. And what about overall? Now you have activities in Port St. Lucie, Fort Pierce, Indiantown, and Stewart, right?
Indiantown, Stewart, yes. I'm doing the math in my head. Sorry. Yes,
Okay.
we have had programs happening in Okeechobee. That's not currently going on.
Okay.
That is our service area also.
Okay. Okeechobee would be included if
Correct.
something came up. All right. Well, this is good. This is good. I'm going to give you that trivia question again. I know. I hear the Googles out there working, because I knew that was one that's going to throw you off. What was Axe Handle Saturday? What year was it, and what was the location? Okay, so if you can figure that out, even Cliff's giving me the look. He don't have a clue. I did know what that was actually before I even looked it up.
Oh, okay.
I
All
did.
right.
Yeah, I
Then
did.
then I won't ask because we want somebody to give it a try.
Oh, yeah, they can find it. It take a little work, but they can find it. And it'll be a pleasant surprise when you find it too.
Oh.
When you find out where it's at, anyway. Okay, so that's a hint, where it's at. What I'm going to do now, I promised you this year for Black History Month, I was going to find stories that you are not familiar with so that I can really educate you. And I don't know what your politics are, Charlene, but I will tell you, I have a particularly tough time with them restricting information historically, because I think it's imperative that we know our history. And when it comes to African Americans, they have not done a very good job of informing us of our history. Part of it, I know, is because there's some guilt associated with it, but the whole idea is to share it so you don't do it again. If you don't share it, you might do it again. I'm getting ready to play for you something, and it gave me goosebumps And it made me get tears in my eyes when I heard this story. And this is a story about the Harlem Hellfighters. I want you to listen to this.
Oh, I've got to pull it up because we actually. Well, let's see. We were recording on that, but the backup of the recording is all we're getting off that. So what we can do is we can shut off one of the backup recordings, of course. I'll just stop it, put it to a stop, and I got to pull up the. I've got to pull up the program, which is actually on a regular. Here it is. Are we ready? I think it's just about here. Let me just make sure that it's here. Okay. Okay, here we go. I do believe we got it.
No sound.
Be overnight across the coastline of Palm Beach County. 55 will just...
No, you know what's happening?
The most important regiments in American history. In World War I, they helped to establish to the entire world the power of black soldiers in the military.
It was very difficult at that time for African Americans to get into the United States military because there was this perception that African Americans would not do well in battle. They had to overcome the prejudice of their own countrymen and yet also perform ably on the battlefield.
Like so many units of African American descent, when they go overseas, they're not sure what they're going to do. Are they going to fight as infantry? Or are they going to be stevedores and load ships? Or are they going to be labor units and cut wood?
And so they're committed to labor duty, they're unloading ships, building latrines, those type of support services. And as you can imagine, these men have been trained and they're willing to fight, they're ready to fight, and this is stressful for them.
They were finally given to the French army, which in a way was an even greater insult because in the First World War, when the United States entered, General Pershing, the commanding officer, was very clear that American forces would not be fed piecemeal into the French and British army because the French and British wanted reinforcements, and Pershing said absolutely not. When Americans join this war, they will fight as an American force under an American flag led by an American general. ... except for the black guys. You can have them.
Henry Johnson is perhaps one of the most remarkable black military heroes in U.S. history.
And he found himself in no man's land with Private Needham Roberts manning a listening post.
And Needham Roberts hears click, click, click. He realizes somebody's cutting the wire. It's potentially a German raid.
And so Roberts is passing him grenades, and they line up these grenades, and the Germans actually do come across the lines. Roberts is hurt, and now Henry Johnson is left to defend their position and to stave off this attack. And then he makes the mistake of jamming a French cartridge into his American gun, and it no longer will work. And the Germans are on top of it.
He then used his rifle like a club, and then he ended up fighting with a knife against the Kaiser's best and turned them.
He's wounded in the fray. He's struck, for example, in the foot, and has a debilitating injury as a result. And he fights them off, he says, for what seemed like an hour.
The Germans ran shrieking into the night, all because of one man.
It's not until the next morning that people realize what a tremendous act this was. They discover 4 bodies of dead German soldiers. And they also realize from the equipment and other things that are left behind that as many as 30 may have been involved in this altercation.
As soon as he drove off those Germans, the French awarded him with the Croix de Guerre, a great honor. Unfortunately, it took about 75 years for the U.S. government to give him the Legion of Merit. Had he been white, he would have walked out of that war with the Medal of Honor. What was so shocking to me when I began to research the story of the Hellfighters was that after they had performed so magnificently in combat, the United States government actually sent a memorandum to the French government, essentially implementing Jim Crow. essentially saying, don't give them some notion that they are equals, because we don't want them taking that notion back to the United States and demanding equality.
When he come back to the United States, he's not awarded the Purple Heart. There's no notation in his military record of his injury. And so he winds up not being able to work because of this injury. He doesn't get any kind of assistance from the Army or from the government as a result. And he ends up dying in 1929 penniless. So it again shows the paradox. Here's this great story of valor and of courage on the part of this soldier, and ultimately he comes back to a nation that doesn't honor that sacrifice.
We tend to think we all know American history so well that the story of the Harlem Hellfighters should be one of the first stories told. It wasn't about killing other people, it was about being Americans and serving their country well. That was the inclination of the Harlem Hellfighters.
When you are African American in 1917, democracy is armor. Democracy is a weapon. And to fight for a war to make the world safe for democracy was something more than just some ethereal crusade for the Hellfighters. It had concrete results. They were fighting for the rights to be a citizen of the country that they were born in.
Well, there we have it right there, Rudy. Then now this was the Axe Handle Saturday.
Brought to you by GodIam.org.
Ah, gee, thanks. Yeah, GodIam.org. And we'll also credit the History Channel.
Yes.
And Facebook. And wow.
Yeah.
But what Rudy wanted to know, you want me to tell everybody?
No.
Oh, okay, then they still have a chance to win now.
Yes.
Everything you need to know for the contest was in what we just played. There. Now, how well did you pay attention? Ooh.
Okay. Yes. So, again, the trivia question is, what was the Axe Handle Saturday? What year was it, and where did it happen? Let me tell you why I wanted to play that video, which was the History Channel. I'm giving the acknowledgement to the History Channel. It was their piece. Because one of the things that really rubs me raw is when people question African Americans' patriotism. I get a raw rub from that, because we have consistently tried to demonstrate our love of the country, and then people tell us, well, if you don't like it, leave. No, I ain't going anywhere. And if they do something I don't like, I'm going to complain about it. But what I want you to get here is, just think about this for a second. That was 1917. They joined the Army, and they still could legally be hung from a tree, and nobody would go to jail for it. They could be shot dead by somebody, and there'd be no trial. But they went to war and fought for the freedom of this country. Don't tell me that that's not patriotic. It doesn't get more patriotic than that.
I know one thing. All these veterans that we know out there, when they do get around to telling their stories, they don't like to tell their stories. But these men trained together, and they were closer than buddies.
Yes.
Because they trained together, they fought together, they died together.
Yes.
And soldiers are good people amongst themselves. They're a tight bunch. There's a tight group. And
man, when you're in a foxhole with somebody, color goes out the window.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But what happens is you go and you serve.
Mm-hmm.
Then you come back home, and then all of a sudden, after you put it all on the line, you get treated like a piece of crap. That's just, that's the sadness of it.
Yeah.
But the point that I made by playing that is that because black people protest does not mean we don't love the country. Because, I would tell you, I would certainly die to protect my country just like everybody else, because I love this country. Does this country piss me off? Yeah. Just like what they did with those guys. They didn't want the French to treat them with respect for fear that when they came back they would want to be treated equally. What kind of, that's insanity. But any event,
The folks here were afraid that they'd come back with some credibility as war heroes, and they didn't want that.
yes.
How can anybody be ashamed of their own heroes?
I don't know, man.
The people that fought.
Tell
Wow.
me. I don't know.
Wow.
You have any short thoughts about that, Charlene?
Well, just to your point, you know, my dad was, as I said, was in the military, so that's what happened in Vietnam.
Yeah.
My dad said he came home from Vietnam, and people were spitting on him, and he's like, what is
Oh, yeah.
happening? You know, they went, they didn't volunteer to go.
Right.
Well, I mean, they volunteered to be
Some
in
of
the
them were
military.
drafted.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. My dad did volunteer, but you know,
Marines usually do.
the worst.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I agree with you. The fact that we would have these men go and fight for their country and then be afraid that they're going to come back and want to be treated equally, the way that they had been treated equally in the military. You know, they're, like you said, the people in the foxhole weren't treating them any different. They were expecting the same level of, you know,
Yeah, well,
Hatred
because
and all
in the foxhole, you're dependent on your buddy.
correct.
Yeah.
You know, it ain't about color in there.
No.
No, I know this. You know, not too many Vietnam veterans will like to talk about what they went through, but I've got a friend who's told me a lot of things, and I understand a whole lot more. In fact, I've had a couple friends over the last few years of my life where I've met some of these guys, and all the time I was younger, no Vietnam veteran ever wanted back then to talk about what they went through.
No.
But once I found out what they went through, it's like I was almost sorry I had asked.
Yeah.
Because they're fighting next to a buddy they were trained with. They're more than friends, and they're shooting at the enemy, and all of a sudden they look over and their buddy's head gets blown off, and
Yeah.
that's what sticks with them their whole life.
Yeah.
They suffer certain kinds of guilt when they come back. They don't need all this other baloney that they've gone through over the years. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it's a challenge, and I know some guys from high school that were in there, and I got drafted, but I went into the Air Force, and fortunately I didn't have to. I got in, and then I was able to get out. So
They really get the best food in the Air Force?
I don't know. I was there for 6 months and 24 days, and I went in the Air Force because I got drafted. They canceled. There used to be what they called the 2S deferment. So if you was in college, you would get the deferment, and they canceled the deferments at the end of my sophomore year.
Oh.
So I got drafted, and they said report to Newark, New Jersey, on, I still remember the day, August 16th, and I said, no, I'm not going to Newark, New Jersey. I'm gonna go in the Navy or the Air Force. And I would have went in the Navy, but I joined with a buddy who couldn't swim. So
Why would a man join the Navy if he couldn't swim? Maybe to learn to swim.
I know he couldn't. That's why I ended up going in the Air Force. So he said, well, come on, join the Air Force with me, because, I can't swim. I go, oh, okay. Because, I went junior lifesaver, senior lifesaver, and I was on my way to do the WSI, and I don't remember why I didn't finish it, but I used to lifeguard a little bit myself at a little local lake. But in any event, I thought that story was very interesting. I had never heard of the Harlem Hellfighters. Had you ever heard of them?
No, I haven't heard of them.
Yeah, yeah. So now that's a very interesting thing. One more time, I'm going to give you.
Yeah, one more chance.
I'm not going to
Yes.
give you a freebie. I'm going to make you work on it, and I got some more. Charlene was kind enough to give me some more passes, so I'm coming back with another trivia question next week. What was Axe Handle Saturday? What year was it, and where did it take place? And what caused it? And if we get down to the last 10 minutes and you haven't got it, I will give you the answer.
Now, we've already given the answer in a little video from the History Channel that we played for you to get an idea. And all three of Rudy's criteria was very clearly mentioned in this video. Okay. Wow.
No. Well, okay. Now, the other thing I talked about last week, which I took a keen interest in, is denialism.
Yep.
Denialism. You ever thought about that, Charlene? I started digging into that because of our current climate made me look into trying to understand denialism. And I was able to come up with some descriptions which I think are pretty interesting. Denialism is an expansion and intensification of denial. At root, denial and denialism are simply a subset of the many ways humans have developed to use language to deceive others and themselves.
Oh my. Deception. There it raises its ugly head again. No, not again. Still. Wow.
Denial hides from the truth. Denialism builds a new and better truth.
Somebody once told me that I was in denial, and my favorite answer to that one is, no, I'm not.
That's a pretty typical answer of people in denial.
I deny that.
Oh. Here's another one. Denialism is rooted in human tendencies that are neither freakish or pathological. I'm giving you some. I'm doing a little brain teasing right now. I want you to think about this because I think we are right now going through some pretty difficult times, and we're going through a lot of denialism that I think of. Like, I'm just going to say, we think about what we're going through with vaccines. People are trying to get out of doing vaccines. We've had vaccines for everything. Smallpox, right?
I think there's been like 12 diseases that have been completely eradicated because of vaccines.
Yes. And now all of a sudden, we can't do a vaccine.
Well, they're bad now. And, I like to tell people, in order to go to public school, you must be vaccinated.
Yes.
This isn't new.
Not at all.
It is not new.
Not at all. Not at all. But we're treating it like it's some brand new thing that just popped up. I have been struggling trying to understand why people have taken some of the approaches they've taken in the denial of facts, which led me to this this research that I did. Denial is a kind of high wire act that can be unbalanced by forceful attempts to draw attention to what is being denied. Interesting. But here's some of the... Denialism is therefore not just hard work. Finding ways to discredit mountains of evidence is a tremendous labor. And that's an interesting point of view there. It is hard work to do that, and we have an answer.
Don't mention his last name, but you can call him by his first name.
Okay.
Steve is.
Steve, yes, sir.
Yeah, you and I, we've been together on the phone.
Okay.
Many times before.
Yes.
We've had some good conversations. We've had our agreements and our differences of opinion.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, we've had them.
That's okay.
You know that.
You're entitled.
Okay.
That's what conversation's all
I
about.
know, and so are you.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
And I'm going to just I'm reading from the stuff that I pulled off the internet, and I'm not going to read it all because some of it I don't know is that relevant. But
Okay.
Axe Handle Saturday. also known as the Jacksonville Riot of 1960, was a racially motivated attack that took place at Hemming Park, which is what it was called at the time, in Jacksonville on August 27, 1960.
Very
Wow.
good.
The white
Got it.
Extra credit for that. There you go. Wow.
They were engaging in a sit-in protest opposing racial segregation. But there's more to it than that. The park has been renamed James Weldon Johnson Park, which is in front of, from what I understand, it's in front of City Hall.
Yes.
The best part of this, and that's because I saw something here that really caught my eye when I was reading all this stuff. Let me go down to here, please. Yes, here we go. James Weldon Johnson and Charles C. Hemming were contemporaries in Jacksonville's history. Different backgrounds. Johnson and his brother composed Lift Every Voice and Sang,
That's correct.
which became known as the Black National Anthem,
Correct.
and had its first performance on February 12, 1900, when 500 Stanton School students in Jacksonville performed it on Abraham Lincoln's birthday.
Very good.
Wow.
Yeah, and this brings me to something else. Abraham Lincoln, a great president, a very, very courageous man for his time, obviously. And whenever I think back to a point in time a couple of years ago, I think that people were pulling down the statue of Abraham Lincoln. That's something that I really could not understand. But anyway,
Okay. Well, let me speak on that for a second.
Impressive, though.
I
Go ahead.
am a strong supporter of Abraham Lincoln. But did you know what Abraham Lincoln did that would make black people that angry? Do you know what he did?
Tell me what he did.
He convened a council in which he tried to offer to send black people back to Africa. Did you know that?
Well, let me ask you this. I'm hearing what you're saying.
Okay.
I worked for a few years at a place called Malcolm X College in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
And one of the first things I ever did was read the biography of Malcolm X.
Okay.
And according to my understanding of what I read, Malcolm X was of the position that this country is not, it's better that we go back to where we came from. And that it was a thought on his part that was conveyed outwardly that perhaps maybe we, the black people, need to go back home and create our own country in the African continent. Did you know that?
Yes, I read the book. But that was
So there
really
you go.
that was really more Marcus Garvey than it was Malcolm X. Because
I understand what you're
after Malcolm made his pilgrimage to Mecca, he came back a changed man. He was no longer believed that all white people were devils, because when he was there in Mecca,
Thank you.
he saw.
Thank you for saying that.
Oh yeah.
That is so important, because there are so many people in this country that we live in. You know, you need to know the facts. You need to know the reality of what really has happened. And I'm glad you brought that up about Malcolm X, because a lot of people thought of him as nothing more than a radical, a racial radical. And I understand what you said, and I'm glad you said that tonight.
Well, let me tell you what disturbed most people. Up until Malcolm, most times that black people were beat up, knocked down, and scared and run off, and didn't fight back. Malcolm said, if you smack me, I'm going to smack you back. If you shoot me, I'm going to shoot you. And people freaked out about that. They said he was a violent radical. And all he said is that, no, we're not going to continue. I don't believe completely in what Martin Luther King believes. I believe if you smack me, I'm going to smack you back. That's what got people upset, because they weren't used to that.
Exactly.
Yes.
One was like Indira Gandhi, and the other one was just the opposite of that. Exactly.
Well, not the opposite, but he was saying that they were prepared to challenge anybody that was going to meet them with violence. And that was something
Agreed.
that was novel, and that caused a rift between Malcolm and Martin Luther King. Although they both respected each other, there was two different approaches on how to solve the problem. Okay.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah. So, but Malcolm,
We come to an agreement tonight. We're on the same side.
Is this a first?
Is
Is this a first?
This is a moment to remember.
Major breakthrough, Rudy.
Well, Steve, you know where the station is, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put your a free raffle ticket in an envelope, and you can come by the station and pick it up. It'll have your name on it.
Sounds good. By the way,
Yes.
I would love to, I would love to have a discussion with you someday about the assassination of Malcolm X. I would really like to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah.
It's not for tonight. Let's deal with the YMCA, but tonight the YMCA. But I would love to have a conversation with you about that some other time.
We can do that. This is a good month to do this. Do you have any questions for my guests?
Well, I mean, the popular thing out there right now is that a fellow black leader had him assassinated.
That's true. That's the word.
And I don't know the level of validity about that. I really don't know. In fact, I don't know that anybody really knows the true facts about how that came down, but that's what I heard. It's someone I think who still lives today.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm not going to take up the time because Charlene's here, but I'll be more than happy to talk to you about that again sometime in the next couple of weeks, because there was just recently a TV program on it, which I saw, about the two men that were accused of killing him that have been released from jail. Did you see that? Yeah.
No, I did not. Where did you see that at?
It was on TV. It was on, I think it was on ABC. They did a program with the two guys that were accused of killing him. They released them both because one of them is dead. The other one got released after like 20 years in jail, and he was not guilty.
Good. I'll be listening to you. When you bring it back up, I'll be on the line in a heartbeat.
Okay. All righty. And come get your ticket.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Steve.
Thank you.
Wow. I'm impressed. And I'm not very easily impressed because I've heard some of your callers, Rudy.
He does his homework. He's a smart guy.
Yeah. You I think you've broken through though, or maybe he broke through. Somebody has broken through here now. And the conversation has been not only just started but verified. You see,
you know me well enough. You and I have been together long enough. You know, you can talk to me about anything. Yeah. Especially, I'd like an intelligent conversation. You can disagree with me, but if you want to have an intelligent dialogue about our differences, I'm more than happy to engage you
with
on that.
More facts and rumors would be appreciated.
Yes, absolutely. You talk about facts. Yeah, you got me.
I did not know that about Abraham Lincoln.
You didn't?
I did not.
Oh,
he was a Republican.
He did,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was
switched.
about somewhere between 6 and 8 men that he called that were community leaders to talk about going back, and they said, no, we don't want to go back. This is our home. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Cliff and I have talked about this before. One of the things that I have a very difficult time trying to convince some white people of, we're American. We are as American as American can get. I don't know nothing about Africa.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I have no clue about Africa. I can't think of any relative I have connected to Africa. I got a couple of relatives I know that were Indians, but I have no knowledge of Africa. I am American. All my family is American. It's the only thing we ever know.
Right.
I think we've been given an obscure view of Africa, too. Because we all imagine the Tarzan movies and the jungles and the tribes. Well, Here's a thought, friends. I have a little stance on this that I maintain. Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
Egypt is Africa, friends.
Yep.
Don't forget that. And you know, a lot of greatness happened in Egypt, came out of Egypt, was Egypt.
Yes.
There's still people around that reflect that greatness. So, I mean, for the haters, that's all right. I don't mind if you hate me too. You can do so because you're a hater, and haters are entitled to do what they
Here's
want.
an interesting thought.
So right.
Here's an interesting thought. Americans were shocked that the African Americans that were in World War I would fight. Did they not understand that some of these Africans came out from Africa were warriors?
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Wow.
why are you
Probably
shocked?
more well trained.
Right.
Actually.
Actually. So why that shouldn't be shocking to you, but because you have such short-sightedness, you couldn't see beyond the color of their skin to think about, well, what might this guy have done? This guy may have been in the jungle fighting lions. I saw something on National Geographic to this day blows my mind. There is a tribe in Africa that takes food from lions
Whoa.
with nothing but spears.
That takes guts to do that. You
You
can't.
kidding me? I saw that. I said, oh, that got to be doctored or something. No, they come up,
Looks like we're having antelope tonight.
and
Yeah.
the two Africans come up with spears in hand,
Yep.
and they take the lion's food.
There's got to be a better way.
Yes, I would think so. I would think so. But that just is something that's been going on for like a gazillion years, I guess. So, but anyway, so you know, I don't want to keep going and harping on that, but I just think it's just so important that people understand that I'm just as American can get. I mean,
Doesn't get any more American than this.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I asked somebody something one time, and they couldn't answer the question. So I said, well, if I was here long before you got here, what gives you the right to have dominion over my choices and my behavior? What gives you the right? Silence.
Well, yeah.
They couldn't answer the question.
Because it's not a right that we're entitled to under the Constitution, is it? You see, there's no answer to that.
There isn't an answer to that.
Just if anybody was perplexed by that, we just give them a little peace of mind that.
Well, that's one of those things that, you know, I tell you, sometimes I can hear the radio smoking when people are thinking. That's one of those right there. I got somebody just sat back in their chair and went,
they're steaming.
Why did he say that? Oh, I got to think about that for a minute. Okay.
Now, if it hurts your feelings, it wasn't intended to. You might have something wrong with your background.
It's just designed to make you, you know, this is the first time you've been on with me, but my thing is I'm going to make you think.
Yeah.
I don't want you to agree with me, but I'm going to give you issues in a different way than what you typically get them. And the idea is to make you have to think about that issue in a way you haven't thought about it before.
Because black people have been treated much differently all these years, even up till today. There's still some instances here and there. It still happens a little bit.
Yeah, of course it does.
Not like it did at one time, because we've come a long way, but still, any little bit of that stuff that's left out there needs to be cleansed out.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, here's another part of this process about denialism. Boy, you never expected all this stuff, huh?
I didn't.
The calls are good tonight. The calls are usually pretty rough.
Oh, good.
But yeah, we love it that way. Yeah.
A better approach to denialism is one of self-criticism. The starting point is a frank question. Why did we fail? Why have those of us who abhor denialism not succeed in halting its onward march? And why have we, as a species, managed to turn out everyday capacity to deny into organized attempt to undermine our collective ability to understand the world and change it for the better? What do you think about that?
Well, and so I'm listening to all of this, and it's reminding me of what I'm hearing, you know, with all of this censorship of books and, you know,
cancel culture and stuff. Yeah.
Parents having to agree with, you know, the history lessons that are going to be taught because parents are denying that there was slavery. You know, well, that doesn't feel good. It's not anything anyone wants to talk about. The Holocaust was bad.
Yeah.
Let's not teach the kids that because it might hurt their feelings. Well, like you said, if we don't teach our history, we're
It
bound
repeats.
to repeat it.
Yes.
We're cursed to repeat it.
So if we deny that all happened, you know, how is all of this gonna?
And here's another important point, and I've made this point before. If you're a little kid growing up and you saw Mickey Mantle, he was a hero. You saw Babe Ruth, he was a hero. What do you think little black kids would think if they saw this guy, Wilbur Johnson, in the history books?
Wow.
You think they would get a pretty good feeling about
Yes.
who they are? I know I got a sense of bursting pride when I first saw that video. I went, wow, that was a bad dude. And he was out there fighting all by himself, and he held his own. So wouldn't that make somebody feel a little bit better? And I think what's important, we had a superintendent here before. He and I became pretty good friends. He's not here anymore. I can't his name going out of my head even. And he and I have had this discussion, and he tried to implement a program in St. Lucie County to give multi-layered history books. And he said it was done down in Palm Beach County, and he said it had a profound impact on the relationship between the students, because students could see all aspect of other students. So, you know, one of the things that I talked about, you know, unfortunately the school I went in, I lived in a nice middle class neighborhood, and the only thing I knew about myself is that we picked cotton. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything else until I went to college.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just didn't. I would imagine you might not have known much more than that yourself.
I learned about slavery and, you know, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Emancipation Proclamation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I see, so the point that I tried to make is building self-esteem starts with people understanding who they are and where they come from. And the better foundation you can put on someone about their beginnings, the greater their chance for success. I believe. That's just my personal belief. So that's why I think the history is so important, because I think it is easier to dislike somebody you don't know anything about than to dislike somebody you know something about.
Yes.
Because once you know them, then it's like, you know what, that person's not so bad.
Don't forget, though, if you're talking about somebody and you know nothing about them, what are you actually saying? Are you lying? Are you embellishing? Or you're gossiping? Gossip. Now that's probably one of the worst sins that people think that they can commit themselves. Because they don't go any further than that, of course. Whether it's true or not, it's immaterial. But this gossip.
And you know, a couple of years ago, I threw out a challenge to my audience. I said, listen, why don't you make arrangements to have lunch or dinner with somebody that's not like you?
Make it some soul food too.
Why don't you just try it? See what you come out of that with, you know.
I had no idea how good snookhead soup is. And you know what? I couldn't even put two and two together at one time about what chitlins were originally used for in the marketplace. You make sausages out of them, and you tie them off into links. Hot dogs, sausages. Remember back when the sausages and the hot dogs were real? You know.
Yeah.
Now it's all, even the skin on the hot dogs are processed pork and chicken, and who knows what else.
Well, anyway, so Charlene, tell us a little bit about how people can get in touch with the Y and membership as we come to the end of the hour.
Okay. Well, everything you need to know about the YMCA of the Treasure Coast can be found on our website, which is www.ymcatreasurecoast.org. You can call our front desk at 772-286-4444. We have all kinds of programs. We start with youth as early as 6 weeks, and we go past 100 years. We have members that are over 100 years old.
Oh, that's very cool.
That's right.
YMCAtreasurecoast.org.
Yes.
Okay.
And the ticket that Rudy gave away is for our Easter house. It is a house that is actually on Bayshore Boulevard in Port St. Lucie. You can drive by and see it. It's valued at $350,000. If you did not win the ticket tonight, you can purchase them for $20 a piece at ymcaeasterhouse.org. It's our largest fundraiser, and all the funds for that event are used for scholarships.
Wow.
Okay, so listen, I will be reminding you again, I will have another giveaway next week for a Easter House raffle. But Charlene, thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the African American Scene. God bless and be safe, and I will see you next week right here for the African American Scene.
The African American Scene with Rudy Howard has archives on YouTube. Go to WPSLTV.com. It'll take you directly to our YouTube presence, and you can binge watch some Rudy Howard's African American Scene shows. By the way, the African American Scene with Rudy Howard, who's an independent insurance agent, is also brought to you by Martin County. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie. Martin County Roofing. WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast, where the time right now is 7 o'clock.